Okay. Okay, testing 1 2 1 2. Hopefully we're not glitching out like the countdown was just doing. This never stops happening to me, Christina. I can't get it right. Okay, well, I'm going to open up the comment box. So right away, if anyone's listening, please comment and let us know that you can hear us. Thumbs up, smiley face, I don't care, but the countdown music did not want to cooperate.
And Mom, don't worry about trying to figure out how to comment.
Oh, yay, somebody could hear us. Hello. Okay, a Facebook user. Okay, well, welcome. You are listening to KISS Recovery 101. I'm Bridge. And today I have with me Christina.
Hi.
Hi, Christina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for asking me.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm very honored that you accepted.
Yes, of course.
So tonight I'm super excited. So I reached out to Christina. I've met her through mutual friends and gatherings, and I pretty much loved everything she had to say. So she was on my, here I go with the things. Just kind of point to me if you notice I do that a lot. But I loved everything that she had to say. And so when I was thinking of a guest, I was so happy that you accepted. So, but I always, I find now with recent guests, I'm trying to ask, is there a specific topic on recovery that we could talk about? And you right away said
food addiction.
Ooh, food addiction. And that was fantastic because I didn't realize that was my first addiction. And then of course now this was something to open new opportunities to research and watch TED Talks and read articles. And there was a lot I did not know. So I'm always searching for other paths to recovery for anyone to find where they kind of fit in. For me in recovery, I needed many paths, especially in the beginning. And now I know kind of where I fit in, but okay, I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly. Holistic? Okay, holistic. Holistic, it's technically clinical. But when I did the research on places that do focus on this treatment, they are like treatment facilities, but they're wonderful because I feel like they're more open-minded. So I'm going to read a little bit on that. But before I do that, Christina, sorry, that whole countdown thing really threw me off.
I know.
Why don't we talk about you? You want to talk a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am an alcoholic. But and I came to it pretty late. I was 35-ish, 34-ish when I kind of realized that I was going to drink to do my coping as my coping skill. Mm-hmm. And it was while I was a substance abuse counselor and at the same time becoming an alcoholic, that I had this massive realization during one of our groups that this was not new behavior to me. This was absolutely old behavior dating back to my childhood. And that food was my very first addiction. Mm-hmm. And I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And Sorry. I did not think that I was going to even become at all emotional. I usually don't. But I know I ran to food as a comfort. You know, the things that you think of as typical comfort food, things high in fat and carbohydrates and sugars. That was my jam. And that was my escape. Like, I didn't have a very high opinion of myself, even as far back as I can remember. I can't ever remember feeling good about who I was or especially what I looked like. Mm-hmm. And food was absolutely something that during that time while I was eating, I didn't have to think about how much I didn't like myself. Mm-hmm. Now that came immediately after I would finish eating something.
Oh yeah.
But that it wasn't, and that's what really sparked the idea in my head, and the realization during that group was that is an addiction. It has nothing to do with what we're putting in our bodies, and so much to do with the motivating behavior that is behind all of that. And that I had been practicing addict since I was literally like 7, 8, somewhere in there. And that's kind of where it all started. And I had gastric bypass in 2014 when I was 34. And within a year, I can watch it on my Facebook timeline as memories come up.
The fucking Facebook timeline. Memories. Oh my goodness.
I used to call it mommy juice, my wine. And I could just see it becoming more and more of a pattern. And within a year, I was drinking daily. I was polishing off multiple bottles of wine a night after coming home from my job as a substance abuse counselor, a highly regarded one down in Iowa. And it just kind of kept, it's been morphing with more realizations ever since. So
yes. And when I first met you through Jessica,
yes,
she had a gathering at her house, and you shared that. I was like, wow, that's amazing. The fact that you were in that field and hearing all the stories and seeing all these things and not really realizing at coming home at night. Like for me, I was so far in denial that I was believing my own excuses I was making in my head. But just to back up, so for me, this was a wonderful opportunity for me to self-reflect and look back in my past. And definitely for me, food. So I'm an addict. And so what I say I'm addicted to more of anything that makes me feel good. So food is not like alcohol and drugs. Food we need to eat. We need that every single day. So I can't just say I'm done with food.
Yep.
So that's a struggle.
Yes.
And then this time of year, it's like the weather changes. This is seasonal depression time. The holidays are coming up.
Yes.
So I love that we're talking about this. But yeah, looking into my past, for sure, I had a rough childhood. I'll just share this openly too. I was sexually molested. And I don't know where, I still haven't, I've scratched the surface on that. I'm still dealing with a lot of that trauma and self-healing. I'm finally in a good place in my sobriety that I go to those deeper when I'm in a comfortable room, usually with women or a therapist, and we will dig deep into that. But just going on like a baseline of that, for sure, food made me feel good. It brought me happiness. It filled the void. It filled that emptiness I had in my soul. And, once I got married and had started having children, like that void that empty spot in my soul was filled, but only temporarily. Life happens. I got complacent, and that I call it the dark spot. It's like this dark spot. I can it sounds a little goofy, but I see it in my body. And if I don't fill it on a regular basis, and that's why I say with everyone, like I do recovery every day, every single day. I need a little piece of recovery to make sure I keep that void, that empty space filled. I filled it with relationships. I fill it with, honestly, my recovery family is my family, and just connecting and going, it can be meetings, it can be just having conversations or doing a podcast. Like that fills me up and it makes me feel loved and accepted. And I watch that. I definitely watch that empty void as much as possible. But we'll go into more of the food addiction thing, because I recently didn't even realize I was tapping back into that again, because it's just like my brain still has those old grooves are in my brain still. And it's very easy. They're just dusty. So it's very easy for my brain to want to go back into that, especially if I start doing, eating something that I like, that I know brings me happiness late at night in my bed.
Right.
And before I know it, my son's calling me out. I was buying these Impossible Whoppers because they were 2 for $1, and he likes them too. So it started to be like my jam at the end of the night. I'd get each of us one and I'd get in bed. It was like my me time, self-care, and I'd be enjoying them. Well, I didn't notice how much time had went by. And one night my son's like, no, I don't want one, Mom. I'm sick of them. And I'm like, you are? And he's like, well, we've been eating them for like 2 weeks every night. And I'm like, oh my God, he's right. And there it is again, that addict brain that I have. So it's crazy. But so I like to talk about solutions. And for me, finding new solutions is exciting. But one of the big things that worked for me was being mindful. And they talk about it with holistic treatment. And I'll just read this thing before I go off rambling. Sorry, Christina. Just catch me, interrupt me anytime. I totally welcome it. Okay, so what is holistic treatment? Holistic addiction treatment means repairing the damage done by addiction to the mind, body, spirit, and environment. All these elements of a person's life need to be brought back into balance for total recovery and success. Most treatment centers tend to focus on just one of these 4 crucial elements to try and achieve lifelong sobriety. Holistic elements direct to the specific needs of an individual. So here is the thing that we'll go into more that I didn't understand. Biochemical repair and restoration help eliminate cravings that lead to addiction. It centers to remove the source of cravings and prepare you with lifelong tools necessary to stay sober. So, Christina, do you want to read?
I
I feel
can.
like I'm dominating this conversation. If you want to read, what is biochemical repair and biochemical restoration?
Restoration. This is to analyze an individual's biochemistry to gain a better understanding of the physiological effects of an addiction. There are certain biochemical imbalances that can make a person more prone to the addictive cycle. With restoring your chemical balance, a person is much more capable of overcoming their addiction. Biochemical repair and biochemical restoration works in conjunction with talk therapy and emotional and lifestyle counseling. The point is to help you understand what causes biochemical imbalance and how diet, supplements, and lifestyle play a critical role. If you hear addiction is a physical illness, this is a fact. Individuals are more likely to develop an addiction or keep coming back to their substance of choice if they suffer from underlying physiological imbalances such as hormonal imbalances, toxicity, hypoglycemia, adrenal fatigue, nutrient deficiencies, amino acid imbalances.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like in this big book that I read, it says alcohol is but a symptom. So, and that's pretty general, but it's there's so many things to that. It definitely was just a symptom to a whole lot of other things going on. So that's why for me, I welcome all paths to recovery, because we all came from different places. We're all on different journeys, and who has any place to say what works for anyone else. Like what works for you is not necessarily going to work for the next person.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and I love to just openly talk about it. I'm finally in this joyous place of freedom that I don't want to hide in it anymore. And I hope that one day it opens doors for other people that feel like they have to hide or lie or put on a mask. I'm hoping that we are opening those doors and paths for other people to come to our community. It is like more of I would say it is becoming more aware. There are like events now. There's a whole lot of stuff on the internet now.
Yes.
But still, in the world of quote unquote normies, normal drinkers, I still get funny faces and looks and weird opinions that they could just keep to themselves.
Right.
No, just kidding. So yeah. So let's play the clip.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So I asked Christina, do you have any like videos or anything that, kind of touches on this and so she sent me a great one. So I'm just going to play a small clip about food addiction, because there is lots of evidence-based scientific facts that totally correlate with what we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, so mind the amateur hour here. I'm going to power on. The speaker's very verbal.
It's okay.
It
This
trips me out.
this guy that she's
Yeah.
going to play the clip from is, or was at the time, I believe this clip was from 2015-ish. He was a doctoral candidate at UW Green Bay. So the TED Talk didn't specifically say what program, but from the sounds of it and his dissertation topic, I would assume it's addiction or addiction and nutrition, but either way, it links the two.
Yeah, he totally talks about how they completely overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll just let him talk about it afterwards. We're going to talk about what he said because it was really awakening. Okay, here we go. Should be on part. I gotta make sure. See, I didn't have the Bluetooth little sticker on.
Bluetooth connected.
Okay, it's connected. You ready? Okay. I don't want to accidentally play something else. All right, here we go.
The foods that cause us to ignore our full stomachs and eat until we incur health complications. These foods are very powerful and they give us a lot of motivation to consume. So much so that in many people they can actually cause addictive-like behavior. So currently it's estimated that 25% of obese individuals show significant signs of food addiction. This is measured by the Yale Food Addiction Scale, which is a tool that was developed to detect signs of substance abuse when consuming highly palatable food. Now, I'm using this term a lot. Highly palatable food is food that is really high in salt, sugar, and fat. And importantly, these foods typically aren't really found in nature. And so this Yale Food Addiction Scale has been used in many studies to show that many aspects of food addiction mirror drug addiction. So for example, Imperatori and colleagues found that when they imaged the brains of individuals that showed 3 or more symptoms of food addiction, according to the Yale Food Addiction Scale, they had changes in specific brain regions that were similar to other participants with other addictive disorders. A different study by Gerhardt and colleagues found that when participants consumed a milkshake, those with a higher score on the Yale Food Addiction Scale showed greater activation in areas of the brain related to reward, which is also seen with addictive drugs. And so these are just 2 examples demonstrating that research has been able to show that there's a lot of overlap between specific areas of the brain, between addictive drugs and the consumption of highly palatable food, which again are these foods that are really high in salt, sugar, and fat. So we can even look and find more examples of how food addiction mirrors drug addiction. We know that when someone addicted to drugs stops taking them, they go through withdrawal. 2 many common symptoms of withdrawal include increased anxiety and loss of appetite. Researchers from Uppsala University in Sweden showed that when they gave obesity-prone rats a diet really high in salt and fat and sugar, and then they withdrew this diet, the rats showed increased anxiety and loss of appetite for their standard normal food. We know that addictive drugs can cause people to develop a tolerance to them. This tolerance often leads to increased drug use and overdosing. Researchers from the Scripps Research Institute in Florida showed evidence that the consumption of highly palatable foods can cause tolerance when they allowed rats to eat as much high-fat and high-sugary food as they wanted. They found that as the rats consumed these foods, the reward that they got from these foods decreased over time, driving the rats to overconsume these foods and gain weight. They developed a tolerance. And so I know many of you are probably very skeptical to compare the power of certain drugs to food. But did you know that when Lenore and associates gave rats a choice between cocaine or a sweetener called saccharin, they actually preferred to consume the sweetener over the cocaine, which I think starts to really show the potential power that these substances can have. And so these are just a couple of examples of a much larger growing body of evidence that is showing that people, and I guess rodents, show clear signs of addiction to highly palatable food as others show to addictive drugs. And so I want to explain to you how food, which I know is required for life, has the potential to be addictive.
Oh, that's perfect timing. There goes the alarm.
Yes.
Wow, that was like spot on. Okay, a lot. There's a lot to that clip.
Yes.
I'm going to let you speak on it first.
Okay. So a lot of what he's talking about is that release of the dopamine that triggers the reward system in our brain. And when we eat things that you find normally in nature with levels of, sugar, fat, and salt that are naturally occurring, it triggers that reward pathway in our brain on a very normal level where we like what we eat and we want to eat it again because it's keeping us alive. So very much like drugs or alcohol, food releases dopamine as well. And especially the things, those highly palatable foods he was talking about, release dopamine at a greater concentration than what our brains would naturally get from foods that grow or occur in nature. And I mean, if anybody has ever been on an Atkins diet, which I've been on every diet known to man, you know that you go through a terrible withdrawal period, especially from carbs. And I would get irritable, mean, I would get headaches. It was awful. But yes, so our brains can't tell the difference between these things. All it knows is it wants more. It doesn't care what, it just wants more so that we get more dopamine, and we build a tolerance. So we need more. Yeah. That's right. Addicted to more. So that's exactly what I've experienced over my life for sure.
Absolutely. And so another video that I found, so that clip, so if you go on YouTube and look up TED Talk, that was Andrew Becker. So another one that I found that I sent to Christina was, I want to say Evie Lahij, and I'm not going to try to pronounce her name, but her video is called Trust Your Hunger and Make Peace with Food. And I loved it because the whole solution that she brings to the table is called the hunger fullness scale. And she gives a great example in real life, in reality. So she says, like, when you go to the bathroom, okay, when you got to go to the bathroom, do you say, oh, no, it's too early, I'll just wait for my usual bathroom time at noon, and then I'll wait till 5 again? No, when you got to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom. So why would you do that with food? When you feel hungry, so their solution is anytime you just start to feel a little hungry, eat something. And then the other example was, with going to the bathroom, if you have to go again, would you be like, oh, I've already gone 3 times today, so I better not overdo it, I'll just hold it? No. I mean, when she pointed out that example, so it's really being mindful and listening to your body. And I recently went to this, the retreat, which is in Wayzata, and they are very big on nutrition and eating healthy, because that's a big part of getting yourself back, into a healthy place, is what you're putting into your body. And it was great because, so I'm the only vegan there, right? And I, thanks to DBT, am pretty mindful of a lot of things. And I can kind of sense when I'm full or satisfied, not overly full, but satisfied. So, they're very awesome there, and the big portion plates. And they put this plate in front of me like, holy crap, it's like 3 meals for me alone. So I'm the nerd, and I'm like, do you guys have any containers I could save the rest of my food for? I looked like a weirdo. I don't care, whatever. And it was funny. So I have my plate saved. Well, I eat 5 or 6 smaller meals a day. I'm a snacker in general, grazer, whatever, but I like to eat the smaller meals, and I never feel really like, what is it when you're sleepy? Lethargic?
Oh, lethargic?
Yeah.
When you're, lagging.
Yeah. And so they'd eat these big meals, and it was a writing recovery weekend, so it was great place to do that. But that's just not me. Like, I'm a go person. So after each meal, they would totally veg out and be more monotone, where I'm a full energy person. So, but 2 hours after we ate, I'm pulling out my Tupperware container of this delicious food. I didn't want to waste it either. Warming it up, and I'm sitting at the table. It would be funny because they come over like, oh, what are you doing? You're eating again? I'm like, well, yeah, this is part of my deal. At first they were like, you're eating again, but they weren't watching me that I didn't eat all of my stuff at one time. So I'm sitting here, and it was funny because I think some people might not have eaten too much in one sitting, but someone came over and was like, oh, that looks good, I'm hungry again. I'm like, so to save some of your stuff for later. So I kind of have like 2 breakfast meals and 2, it's 5 or 6, but I really just gauge it to my body and being aware. So I'm gonna drop the mic on you, Christina. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at me today, and a lot of people don't know this, Hopefully nobody goes out there and finds Facebook accounts I can't get rid of. But I am, at one point, I was double the weight that I am today. So, for me, with food addiction, I did not realize this, but when I would get pregnant, I knew I couldn't drink or use drugs. Like, I knew that. Like, my body now is, this child's growing inside of me, but guess what I did? I didn't realize that food addiction was my first addiction. So I ate. I ate to not drink. And I gained so much weight. You know, my first son, you know, I guess back then they would say 35 pounds. I don't know, with my last pregnancy, they're like, oh, you're only supposed to gain like 25, 30 pounds. I gained 60 pounds. Christina was my first son.
I gained 50 with each of them.
Yeah, my second one came pretty quickly. I think I was pregnant again within a year, and I gained like, I didn't even get time to like lose any weight after that. Like, so like after my second son, I had gained like a total of 80 pounds. So yeah, and I didn't know at that time anything about recovery, anything about addiction. I was just living in this world. And so it's sad for me to see those pictures. You know, people see them and they're like, oh, wow, you lost a lot of weight. I look and I see myself that I was such a sad, lost person. And it makes me sad. And it's something I can't explain, but it's really amazing how quick my brain loves chocolate. My brain wants those things because I know they instantly make me feel happy. They instantly like give me pleasure. And it's hard to work on that. I remember doing the whole, like, what was it? Weight Watchers.
Oh, yeah.
No, but I encourage you to like check out these videos, because what she says is, here's what was really cool that she pointed out. The reasons why many people eat is not because they're hungry. Many people eat because they're bored, stressed, or tired, just want a break. Here, these go with me. It's free, or it's offered, or it's just available. Now, if we take food out of that aspect and you put in alcohol or drugs, those things, I'm bored, or stressed, or tired, or need a break. It's free, it's offered, or it's available.
Right? Or $3 at the local Hy-Vee.
Right, there you go. So there you go. Like, I'm so glad that you brought this topic up. So gauging time. Oh, we got some comments. Let's say hello to the listeners. So listeners, I highly encourage you to ask questions, post comments. This is an interactive. We are live right now, Sunday. Oh my gosh, did you remember the hour thing?
Yes.
I didn't. I had to meet someone today earlier. It's Lottie. I'm so glad I met her. She totally got me out of my hermitville-ness, and she was just a positive energy that I really needed. I don't realize how quickly my ass can get right back into isolation mode and hermit mode. And so, but yeah, she totally didn't realize it. But like, I say this all the time, doing sponsoring, like they give me so. She literally left here, and I sat in my car, and I'm like, man, I feel like almost guilty because I feel great. I don't know what impression that left on her, but I feel wonderful. So thank you. So anyway, sorry rambling. But yeah, so with that, let's see who's on here. So if you did not check the box and you're listening to us through Facebook live stream, you will remain anonymous. If you did check the box, I will say your name and say hi. And then YouTube is completely open, public platform. So post your comments or questions. So let's see. Oh, Juliet's on. Hey, shout out to Juliet. Let's see. We got Nordy. Does Nordy sound familiar? Trying out the chat. We see you, Nordy. Okay. Oh, Juliet, she's such a fan. I love her. Okay, well, no questions yet. So, you ready to, is there anything that you want to touch on or tap in? I was thinking we could just go right to the hot seat.
We can. I was just going to say that, or what I found myself thinking about while you were going through the videos and the holistic information was that a lot of my issues, whether it be around food, alcohol, had zero things to do with that and everything to do with how I felt about myself. And that that is still an absolute work in progress. And I am just beginning to scratch the surface on learning to love and accept myself, like today, not me 20 pounds lighter, or not me if I wasn't such an a-hole to my mom and my family, like when I was drinking, but like me right here, right now, which marries beautifully with the mindfulness, the holistic approach. Because when I am working out regularly and regulating the dopamine and serotonin in my brain, I feel much better about myself. When I'm surrounding myself with positive, loving, supportive people, I feel much better about who I am. And service work, when I am helping others, when I am doing my sound stuff for the area, Alcoholics Anonymous, it's fun. It fills my cup. It's wonderful. And the more things that I can find to fill my cup, such as baking and Christmas stocking embroidering and all this, the better I feel about who I am, and the more easily I think I can even comprehend accepting myself. I'm not there yet, but I'm not totally terrified by that thought when I'm doing those types of things.
Sure. Well, okay. I love that you said that. So yes, give yourself some credit, give yourself some grace. That's what I heard. And it, I hold myself to this really high standard. That's ridiculous. And so I totally get that, but I love what you said. Okay, mind blank. You just said something I was going to touch on right before service. You said, joy.
Joy, yes.
So I have a list of things that bring me joy. Baking is one of those things too, like hobbies. So for me, definitely when I was in a dark place, I was in one of my treatments, and they're like, list out things that bring you joy, that no matter what, it's going to bring you some kind of joy, and that was really hard for me because nothing was making, I was in a really bad place then, and I just thought, this is stupid. Nothing's going to work. And I still have a list, and it's only like 3 guaranteed things that even if I'm in my head, the bad neighborhood, if I'm in a, just not pleasant place, I pull out that list. I literally had to do it 3 or 4 weeks ago. My kids were gone, it's so funny because at first I'm like, yay, I get a weekend to myself. And then they're gone. I'm like, oh, I'm all by myself. Sad, empty house. And it triggers a lot of bad memories. But I forced myself. And people are busy. And I didn't think, for whatever reason, now I'm better at planning things. But I didn't plan anything with friends. Just like, I'll go do this and go do that. And then they're gone. And I'm like freaking out. So I had to bust out the list because I started had flashbacks and all this. And one of the things, I was so I'm my own worst enemy. I was talking myself out of my own freaking list, Christina. So I was like, just do it, Bridge. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, practice what you preach. Like, these things work. They work. Go do them. So I went to my favorite bookstore. I went straight to the clearance section. And as soon as I got there, I love this place. What was I thinking? Like, I could be happy. It instantly took me out. It's like I have to trust myself, and force myself, because my old habits, it's hard to, I don't know if this will make sense to you, so please tell me if this doesn't, but it's like those things that were very painful and those things that I did to myself, even though they're not good and they're just so easy for me to go back to because that's what I'm used to. Like, I'm used to feeling in pain or whatever. Yep. And it's so easy for me to revert back into that. It's still, I can't explain it properly. I'm probably sounding confusing, but I just remember the last straw in that moment when I had to come to the bookstore was I was out of fucking laundry detergent. And there was a pile of laundry and just nothing was working out. And I just couldn't get anything done. And a couple people I'd reached out to, but I wanted an answer or response now. Yep. And I was just going into that dark place. And so pulled out my list. I went to the fucking bookstore. Sorry, I don't mean to cuss so much. It just brings me back because it was I was starting to get breathing, panic crap. And then as soon as I walked in, I felt like such an idiot. I'm like, why do you do this to yourself?
Every time. Yep.
Yes. So what you said, baking and embroidering. What else brings you joy?
Well, one of the biggest things that got me through this 19 months of sobriety that I have now, which is the longest in my adult life, was baking, but then bringing it to my women's group in Isani on Tuesdays. And I know some of them have been horrible failures. Like once I tried to bake with almond flour and the whole thing just kind of crumbled. But I was like, well, let's just base this one on the taste maybe.
Sure.
But one of my favorite things to do is to bake the big elaborate cake or loaf of something and bring it with me for everybody to enjoy. Yes. That really has been, it broke my world open. Gardening is another thing. I am that crazy plant lady that like I go to the store and I come back with 4 plants. And my mom, God bless her, loves it, I'm sure, because half of them are at her house and half of them are at my significant other's house. Yeah. And so it's
everybody gets that.
Right. It is. And those things got me through the pandemic, as along with internet-based meetings. Yes. There's a woman who hopefully she's listening right now that got sober during the pandemic and has never been, or at least last time we talked, never had been to an in-person AA meeting at all. Wow. Like entire recovery was virtual.
Wow. And she hasn't been in the rooms yet?
I don't believe so, but I'm going to text her after this and be like, hey, I know I'm trying to get her to get up to Isani soon because she attends that one on Zoom.
Yes.
Every
well,
week.
And so we'll just go on this little tangent for a second. I am such an advocate for hybrid meetings or any of the virtual meetings. There's so many people. It's weird. You know, we came back in the rooms and it's a good thing, but so many people just were like, okay, we're done with the virtual meetings. I'm like, hell no, we're not. Like that was a big part of my struggle as a single mom, or when I wasn't single, I was stuck at home. Sometimes it was a weird controlling situation, or I didn't have a car, or I didn't have a job and I couldn't get out.
Yes.
So when we got back, like we kept our meeting going virtually.
Yep.
And then when we came back in, I'm like, absolutely, we're a hybrid meeting. Yes. Any meeting that I go to, I try to like advocate like, hey, you want to offer this virtually? Because I feel like it should be open to anyone. And if winter's coming up.
And winter, yes.
Winter's coming up. Who wants to go out? You know, we can get some pretty nasty storms here, right? Or our vehicles aren't whatever. Or you have 5 kids and the sitter cancels again. Like,
right.
It's nice to have that option.
Yes.
And so 2 of the meetings that I attend, one is Bad Moms Club. That's Monday nights, and that's like a hybrid meeting that is it's totally united. So they protect anonymity. So the video is just on the leader. Nobody else is on camera, although they can always turn off the camera if anybody has an issue. But it's always like introduced like, hey, we are having a Zoom meeting. Nobody is on camera. Just so that you have the opportunity for whatever reason you don't feel comfortable. There's a password, and we have an admin person that watches the Zoom. It has to admit people, so we keep it really protected. And then the other meeting on Wednesdays, Women's Way, they have it separate. So the in-room meeting is not the same as they're at the same time.
Okay.
And they work through the same book, and it's the same program. It's just it was too hard just with the steps and the timing and all that for them to make it united. Plus, they couldn't keep like a consistent like virtual meeting moderator. But I find that they're nice because sometimes you're just not in the mood to get out of your pajama pants and go through the snow and get to the meeting, but you can still be connected.
Yes.
Okay, so sorry. It's easy. Oh, we got Nordy said. Oh, here's a question. How do I know if I eat too much sugar? I don't think I have a problem, but I eat candy every night after the kids go to bed. I think it might just be a habit. How would you say, Christina, let's just speak from experience.
Right.
How would you say, and here we go, alarm number 2. So after this question, we'll go to hit you with your questions.
Okay. So even though we're talking about different paths of recovery, I credit a lot of my sobriety to AA and the collective consciousness that it is and the support that it brings. So were you to ask that question about, let's just say, alcohol to somebody in AA, they would say, well, I can't tell you, but if you're asking, chances are you might have a problem. Right. And now on the professional side, like I was a substance abuse counselor, like, you know, going through the dimensions, like we could diagnose you. And now I'm getting my graduate degree in social work and plan to be a therapist. And I mean, like, it's a diagnosable condition. So professionally, I could tell you. AA.
Fill out a questionnaire.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Survey.
AA would say, I can't tell you. But if you're asking, maybe you should look into that a little more. Yeah. Well, and in that clip that we didn't play the part of, he quotes an outrageous number. Something like 70% of Americans are overweight and or obese. And so we know that it's a problem in the United States, and there's research to back it up that it affects your brain just like addiction. So
yes. Well, and like in that clip, he was saying the rats freaking chose that food or the
sweetener, the saccharin
over cocaine.
Yeah.
Holy moly, like that was like, wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that cappuccino chocolate cake that I made a few weeks ago that women from my meeting will remember. Like,
you got them hooked.
That, or you know, I would
coming on. That's what makes me keep coming back.
Right?
Okay, let's jump into the hot seat.
Oh Lord.
Don't be too nervous, I promise. So I do encourage you to answer the questions. I will not kick you off the show if you don't. And feel free to just it's not timed, so don't feel like you have to rush an answer, but just whatever comes to your mind. So my first question, and this one might be confusing, so I cheated. I wrote a little, I'll give you an example answer that came to my mind. So the first question, what childhood saying do you think now was a lie? So like a lie. So a good one that I had was, I still use it today, like you can only lead a horse to the water, right? That's a good one. You can't make them drink. It's an oldie but goodie. But the one that I really struggle with and I do not agree with was sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. I mean, I get the whole main idea of it, but it's very the opposite of what is true today for me. Words can be very harmful, especially when you're younger, especially when you're figuring out who you are. I mean, especially with girls. Girls are so mean. Yeah, tell that to somebody who was bullied like I was. I was bullied from probably kindergarten all the way through high school. And I count that as a childhood trauma. Like, I mean, I was mercilessly bullied. And I was in a very small school. It was a private Catholic school, and I think my graduating class had like 50 people in it. So I mean, we had 250 people in the whole school. So it was very, very difficult to move through, and that was just words. So absolutely, that's a really good example. Okay. And now I can't think of one. You want to step off of that? I mean, like, someone in the childhood, and any saying come to mind that I would say, you don't have to say it was a lie, but something that you heard as a child that you think of today. Matt was on the show a couple weeks ago, and I like how he said there are those sayings though that you heard as a kid. Yeah. And now as an adult, you're like, oh yeah, I get it now. Like, it makes sense now. Now that I look, any words of wisdom teachers might have said, grandma might have said. That is a kind of a hard one. Yeah. I think that's why I can't think of something. Yeah, give me some time. I'm sure my mom is yelling something at her phone right now. Yeah, go ahead and post any. I propose this to anyone out there. If there was a childhood saying that was, you think now was like a freaking lie, what was that? I mean, I can't think of any right now, but there's a lot of them that, I know, it's so funny. So I'm going to bust out my daughter today. She was like, randomly, she's so random. She's 10 going on 16. She's like, so Mom, have have you ever had the talk with her two older brothers? I'm like, the talk? Do you mean by, here's what you're dating myself. You mean by the birds and the bees? She's like, what's the birds and the bees? She's like, she said something weird. She said nowadays they call it the double tango or something else.
What?
I don't know what the term is.
That's funny.
But it's the birds and the bees.
Yeah.
And we both, I knew she knew what I was talking about. I knew what she was talking about. I'm like, yes, honey, we've had a discussion. And nowadays in the schools, they like introduce that in like 4th grade, which is good, I think. And yeah,
That's
anyway,
funny.
the birds and the bees. She's like, what are you talking about? Some birds and bees, Mom? You're old.
Now you're going to have to carry around those Werther's caramels in your pocket,
Oh my
like
God.
that grandmas always have.
Yes. I love
Hard
those.
candy.
They have chewy ones now, too.
I know.
Okay, here's question number 2. When you were deep in your addiction, did you ever do things that felt insane to you or others? What was something you did?
Oh, shit. What didn't I do?
That's a better question, yeah.
Right? Mom, cover your ears, and any other family members listening that may not want to know this. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I would start drinking in the middle of the night because I would be starting to go through withdrawals. So, and then I would wake up 2 hours before my kids, because for my kids right now, I'm in Minnesota. They're in Iowa with their dad, who he is a wonderful man, very supportive of me in my recovery. But at the time when I moved up here, like that's where they were safer, and he's a rock. But I would have to get up at 5 a.m. to start drinking in order to just not be sick to my stomach or shaking, so I could drive them to school. I think my operating blood alcohol level was a 0.24 or something. I mean, like that was me clear-headed and able to function and coherent. I mean, how scary is that? Like, that's insane. Really insane. I was dating this guy who had been in and out of prison, by the way, for beating his girlfriends. And so he was down in Mississippi, in Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was like, you should come down here. Like, I've got a townhouse. It's right on the bayou. It's amazing. I was deep in my addiction at this point, and I wasn't working. I was living off my mom, who was supporting me. And I thought that it was a really great idea to jump in a car with 2 men I had never met, both of who were carrying guns and smoked weed the entire way down there. And I had 2 boxes of wine in the back seat with me while they were in the front.
Wine's real classy.
I know, right? I told myself that I was a classy alcoholic. Like, I was sophisticated. That was one of my justifications for continuing. And I drove 20 hours with these guys. I only remember about half of that. And spent several days down there. I'm not entirely sure how long I was there. And then they drove me back. So that was pretty insane.
And you're here today.
And I'm alive. Yeah.
That's
just a couple of the things that I've done.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I can imagine the laundry list. What's great for me too,
Right.
for myself. I'm not even talking about you.
Oh, I know, right?
What's great is I got that question out of the Women's Way Through the 12 Steps workbook.
Oh, I love going through the Women's Way Through the 12 Steps.
It's great. Yes, and I'm re-going through the workbook with one of my sponsees, and I'm like filling it out. And 2 years later, this will be the first time I've ever got 2 years in December. Ever.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've
Yes.
done a couple, like 18 months.
Okay.
So this is the first time that I'll have that 2 years because, having 5 kids. I didn't get those 18 months.
Right?
But, we're already at 8:50. Do you see how I told you the
I
time
see,
flies?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep it short and sweet. So the Women's Way Through the 12 Steps really was amazing. I mean, it really helped me understand that bigger book. And I think it shouldn't even be like women. I think men could totally get a lot from it, like especially with step 4, but we won't go into that. But yeah, I'm going through this workbook again and being where I'm at now on the other side. It's wonderful. I don't want to be that ABC person again, but to look back and see where I was. And now to be answering those questions where I sit today. And it's, when you go through the workbook, it says substitute any addiction you have for that. And it's wonderful to see what my response is now, because I do feel like I'm a different person.
Yes.
So, okay, last question. If you could give yourself advice when you were a teenager, one bit of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I would grab that little girl and hug her and tell her that what everybody else is saying to you, it has nothing to do with you. And in fact, it's none of your business. It has everything to do with how they feel about themselves. And that you're just the closest scapegoat to release those feelings. And so if I think, and that is something that I didn't even come to understand until I was well into my adulthood. I mean, to be fair, like I'm probably at an emotional operating age of 25 and I'm 41. But, like, to be fair, when I first came into the rooms of AA and started recovery journey 5 years ago, I was probably 16, 17, 18. Like, I was very emotionally stunted. And so I feel like there's progress there. But if I had understood that when I was a teenager, I don't know that the things that I got made fun of for, especially my weight, would have had that big of an impact on me if I had that understanding. Developmentally, I don't even know if we're capable of it, although teenagers now, I swear to God, they are. They seem so much smarter than I ever seemed at that age. But that definitely would be what I would tell her.
Well, I don't even want to answer that question myself. I don't know what you could have told me. But I love that you mentioned the emotional age, maturity, because I see that in the rooms a lot. So I, like you, I didn't even start drinking until I was 21. Okay. I was so busy working and following the rules just so I could get my ass out of the house. I mean, by the time I was 17, I had my own I had an apartment, a car, 2 full-time jobs. Like, I was an overachiever, but people looked at me as like, oh, you're so successful and you're just like a go-getter. I was going to get my ass out the house. The house of horrors for me. But so for me, when I really got into the depths of being lost in addiction and those brain like structures, cells in my body was really changing. By then, just surviving my childhood, I was very mature. Like, I was the oldest. I took care of my baby sister. Like, I took care of myself. So I didn't understand that concept until I started dating. I dated a guy that was 10 years older than me, right? I thought he'd be all wise. And I'm like, there's a big difference between book smarts, because he was like an engineer or something or whatever, and street smarts, or just, like wisdom. There's a great quote that says, wisdom is just healed pain.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. So he might have been good with math, and he was very proud of that. But like, he didn't have common sense about a lot of things, and he would be like, "I'm so much older." And like, I wouldn't keep saying that.
No, right.
That wasn't even a relationship. We were dating. That didn't last very long. But in the rooms, especially in recovery, I see that a lot. And I just took this great training at MRC. We did forensic peer recovery specialist, and it was wonderful to tap into the mind of someone that's been incarcerated. And I was on the defense mode the whole time, because the thinking and the mental capacity that they are at was my childhood. Like, the whole transactional relationships, like, you don't get something for free, you get something to get something. I thought anybody that came up to me wanted something in return. Right. And there was a lot of trust factors. But there was a point where they would say, you could base what someone would say on where their emotional maturity level was at. And there was actually like columns. One of the columns was like child, there was a child one, there was adolescent one, and then there was like, more adult one. And more times out of the scenarios we got, they were either toddler, like that's what the joke went in. I was like, oh, does it sound like your toddler? Or adolescents, So some of the responses, I'm like, well, shit, my ex used to say that all the time. And I was like, he might have been, close to my age, but his mind, his emotion, like he started using very early, So that was a mind blowing to see that. And I can't help it. But now I'm like, I listen for what people say.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I catch it. And even me, like I got frozen in time at that time, for a long time. So that's why I like to say I'm in recovery. Because for me, it's a positive thing. It's like an opportunity to keep growing and gaining knowledge.
100%.
And healing,
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's see. We got, how much time do we got? Okay, Women's Week. Let's see. Oh, it sucks because I can't see who people are. But let's see. Oh, it says it was Christina's birthday on the 5th. We should all sing. I would welcome that, but that would just be mean. That would not be a good thing. Okay, I don't want to scare off any future listeners. But happy birthday. And I think
Thank
I sent
you.
one of those cheesy gifts.
Yes, you did. You did.
I'm a gift fanatic. But happy birthday.
Thank you.
And did you do anything fun?
I went to dinner with my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where did you go?
That's because I'm very exciting. I lead an extremely exciting life these days. After working all day.
Oh yeah, I don't know you that well. I didn't pick up and they're like, oh cool.
No.
Oh, did you go eat?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. No, we went to this hibachi grill in North Branch.
Oh, yeah.
And actually it was freaking phenomenal food. It was wonderful. And so, and oddly enough, like growing up through all that difficulty, my mom and I butted heads a ton. Like I was a terrible child. Oh my God, terrible child. But now, after being an adult and especially having children and moving back in with her at 38, like she's one of my best friends. I absolutely love my mom, and she's probably my biggest supporter. She is my biggest supporter, not even any probably about it. But yeah, that's a special kind of thing now that I'm past that shitty stage and cloudy, and I have clarity, and she and I can connect on a whole new level, a better level. And even the rest of my family, we're getting reconnected after that separation.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I just picture my kiddos like when they're growing up. I'm like, the one's about to be 18. I'm like, don't be in a hurry to move out. He's like, Mom, how much is the phone bill? Because he's like calculating what's going to be like, well, don't be in a hurry. Okay, it's $35, but like you still need to think about this and that. Like, calm down. The other one's trying to get his permit to drive. I'm like,
oh yes.
I mean, I have enough to keep me busy, but I'm still like, I will be your mom. I'll be like, let me take you out every birthday. Make sure to get you some Christmas scarves every year. Whatever you need. Please still need me. Okay, so this is the fun part. Oh, it says the Women's Way meeting. Do you go through the book? Yes. So the Women's Way through the 12 steps is Stephanie Covington.
Yep.
Okay. And so there's at Blaine, Illinois, Wednesday nights at 6:30. You can go in person, or you get in the Facebook private group, and there's a Zoom link that will go out. And yes, you work through the big book, but it really goes more deeper and in depth to just the word powerless. As a female growing up in this world, I did not like anyone telling me they were more powerful than me. Like, I didn't like the idea of I have to give up power that I feel like I had to earn. I still feel like I have that other level that I'm constantly having to prove myself because I'm a woman. So, but it's great because that book turned my thinking into, now I look at it as I'm so much more powerful because I have my sobriety. Yes. My sobriety is such a powerful thing to me. And that sobriety, like that power, is something I hold on to, and nobody can talk shit to me now. Like, as long as I have my sobriety, like, I'm on my shit. Like, if someone talks, like, I used to have all these negative people in my circle, and I would listen, to their crap and believe it. And now, like, a lot of those people aren't even in my life.
Yep.
And if anyone anywhere questions that, at least I know I'm good on my shit. You need to look at yourself. You pointing that, what is it, the A finger? Like,
Oh, yeah.
when they're pointing at you,
Yep.
they got 3 fingers pointed back at them. So they're a sick person.
Yes.
They just need to stay over there. Okay, you ready for, the segment's called Live Facebook Memes. So I just pick random memes. Like, that's, okay, Christina, I'm also a boring person. I get my thrills at night. By looking at the great memes and stuff that people post, and just bring me joy and laughter. Or they were just really like, ooh, like,
they can pack a punch.
Yes, I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. Screenshot. So these are like the screenshots of the one I saved to my phone that I'm going to flash to you. And like Facebook, I want you to thumbs up it, or the laugh emoji, or heart emoji. Now they have the care one. And then also, if you feel like commenting. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, I printed them out. Because I'm old school. I printed them out of my printer. Okay. Ugh. Okay, I think most of these ones were funny. I realized I get to, like, I'm not going to overthink it. Okay, you ready? So I also did not have a lot of ink, so most of them don't have pictures. So you just get to read a lot of them. Ready?
Oh, good. Okay. 1 kid makes you a mom. 2 kids makes you a maid. 3 kids makes you a manager, for sure. 4 or more kids makes you a magical freaking unicorn.
Magical freaking unicorn.
And Bridge has 4 or more children.
Yes. I love that. Oh, that goes straight into one of these other ones you've seen.
There's one that was on Zulily, which I may have a problem with, or I may not. It's a online shopping thing, yes. But it was a shirt that said, nobody prepares you for the transition from mama to mommy to mom to bro.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the best thing ever?
Yes.
Especially if you have boys.
Teenage boys or preteens? Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. I had to share that quick.
Oh
Sorry.
Gosh, yes.
That was funny.
When bro came out of my mouth, I'm like, if I hear that again, bro, you cooking yourself dinner and every meal after that. So, okay, here's another one.
You will always be my best friend. You know too much for me to let you go. Isn't that true? Right, Julie, who's heard my 5th step?
Say, who's your bestie, Julie? Right away from me, Sarah comes to my, she know too much.
Right?
Be best friends whether she likes it or not. Would you thumbs up that?
Oh, thumbs up, both.
Okay. Okay, here's another one.
There are 2 sides to every story, and then there are the screenshots.
Oh, yeah, evidence.
Evidence.
Wow, hardcore evidence. If I get paragraphs, my go-to, especially with the co-parenting thing.
Oh, yes.
Screenshot it up. If I get paragraphs from anyone, I just like to have evidence, because for whatever reason, I feel like you didn't pick up the phone and you didn't want to talk in person. Something's going on. I better keep tallies, because I'll get the full story eventually.
That is not an addict-linked behavior at all, whatsoever, is it?
No way.
You can't heal people you love. You can't make choices for them. You can't rescue them. You can promise that they won't journey alone. You can loan them your map, but this trip is theirs. Aww.
Don't you love that?
Yes. Although I wish you could make your significant other wear the cologne that you like. Do you think that would have to fit in here?
I love the I like that it said they can follow, you can loan them your map.
You could loan them your map, yes.
You can guide them, but you can't do it for them.
No.
And no set direction is necessarily going to work.
Right. And the sooner, and that's like, that very nicely sums up like what it means to let go of something. You know, like you don't have control over anything outside of your actions and reactions. Absolutely. And the sooner you learn that, there is just so much serenity that comes with that. Like, innate understanding, and it has to be at a cellular level. Like, you can't just say it and then still want to control stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
as soon as you absolutely get it,
It's
wonderful
it's
things
a burden
happen.
lifting. Yes, absolutely. Okay, this one does have a picture
Of a crazy green monster.
looking thing.
Yes. When the Netflix asks if you're still watching and you see your reflection in the black screen of the TV looking like a haggard green monster that this picture is showing. It is too.
Binge watch,
I have to hit yes, I'm still watching, especially on the British baking show. That stuff can run all night for me.
Yeah, and it'll pop up. It's like Hulu or something. I was really into Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
Just binge watching, and I love that picture. And then it comes up in the black screen. I'm like, oh my god, I'm hideous. Comb your hair. Someone might come knocking at the door like the delivery man.
Right. Oh, I know.
Away. Okay, and this is the last but not least. I have a hoodie that has that.
Oh, good. This is a perfect one.
Describe.
So there are two horses. Well, one's a horse, and he's a very plain looking chestnut on one side. And then there's a dancer's pole in the middle. And then there is a beautiful sparkly unicorn on the other side.
Unicorn.
So on the horse, on the one where it's just the plain horse, it says other sober people. And then me is the sparkly unicorn on the dancing pole.
And that was, I got this like printed out of hoodie because that was me for so long. I was sober, but I wasn't really happy.
Oh, yes.
I was doing the program, but I wasn't, it
Yes.
took me a long while. And now that I've like crossed over and I just really love this, I love this world. I love carrying the message and offering my hand. Now this happy unicorn on the dance pole like me. I know that I rub some people the wrong way, but for the most part, they don't have to be around me,
That's right.
Even
That's
if you
right.
don't be at the meeting, like, see this an hour, and you don't have to come back, whatever. So, okay. I think we're doing really great with time. I don't even know.
Yes.
9:07 is not so
9:07.
bad.
No.
Okay. So, any final thoughts? Oh, wait. Let's look at comments. Okay. Oh, Mark's on. Mark is fabulous. I know him from Blaine.
Oh, was he the guy on? You've had him on here?
He had a comment on here before that was
okay.
really good. So that's probably why that name ties to it. Okay. He does that. If you go to any of his meetings, you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so Mark said, when working with a new client, is the brain chemistry conversations helpful for them when the why question comes up? So this is directed at you.
Yeah, so for the most part, I find that it is. Sometimes I come across people who have cognitive deficits, which means that maybe, I hate using this word, but slower, learning wise, or maybe there might be learning disabilities or something is there. And we just call it cognitive deficits, and it kind of falls under this umbrella. I think a lot of people, it is helpful to know that there is solid reasoning, that there is a there's a biochemical reason as to why your body and your brain reacts the way it does to these certain chemicals. And once you can start to understand that, and in my head, knowledge is power.
Yes.
Me, when I understand something and the whys and hows, I can work through it. Like, it makes sense to me, and then I can accept it. Maybe that's what it is better, is this acceptance piece.
Yes.
So for the vast majority of people, and I can often break it down much more scientifically than, I have like diagrams and stuff, showing different areas of the brain. Yes. And it is helpful, and it helps to show them that there is research. There are decades worth of research out there to support this. And not only is it, the disease model of, it's now it's a diagnosable illness. It's a mental health disorder. It's in the DSM, and there are proven best practice treatments to address it. And So I often, if I feel like the person across from me would understand what I'm saying, and sometimes I can even make it understandable for them, you know, but absolutely, I try and let people know about
Great
that
question.
side of it. Yes.
Well, and that's what's interesting. I don't know if this really applies, but for me, for sure, you know, after such a long use, I had a lot of co-occurring, and we don't even call it. I love that the verbiage is changing. So instead of saying someone's a drug addict, it is now considered substance use
Disorder.
Yep. They don't like the word abuse.
No,
right?
They took that out,
Yes,
actually,
it's
from in the new DSM.
Right
yeah.
away, negative word. So yeah, substance use disorder. And I learned at my work, there was, they just did they gave an example. So the same doctors, okay, they didn't know this. So this was like, what is it called? It was an experiment. So, and they agreed to all these things, right? So, so the same doctors got the same files. They didn't realize this was pretty much the same patient, but one was labeled a drug addict and one was labeled with the substance use disorder, right? So all these doctors, they saw clear as like day, the drug addict, their file, like how they like diagnosed them, how they labeled them, how they marked up all their whatever, was way more judgmental and very like, I don't know how, like not hopeful.
Right.
And then the person that was labeled with the substance use disorder, totally other side, totally flip side, because that is what's great, that shows that the stigma is a really big problem.
Yeah.
And I know for myself and my experiences being in hospitals and trying to get help, like I was treated like shit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I remember being in a room and hearing the orderlies or whoever out there just talking shit about us. So like, I'm already in a really bad place, hating myself, and I hear them making fun of us. Like I cannot even, that stuff was mind blowing to me. Like, why would you take a position like that and work in a field like that and just do that, you know?
I had the exact same experience at one of the hospitals down in Des Moines. And I came in there drunk. I mean, I had a double kidney infection that was very bad. I mean, I had a temperature of 102 point something. I mean, it was bad. Like I couldn't drive my kids to school. We took a cab, so dropped them off at daycare, and then the cab brought me to the hospital.
Girl,
I know, it was so bad. And I was laying in the emergency room. I mean, doubled over. I may have smuggled some wine in that I was drinking, but like it, you know, because my addiction got in the way, I didn't even know how sick I was until I got vertigo. Like I stood up and everything got dizzy. I couldn't see. It was terrifying. And I was laying there. They wouldn't get me a blanket or a pillow. And they were nurses standing out at the ED desk talking about me and staring at me. And
it was awful.
Yeah, and I was really sick.
Yes.
But this is why we do this. Like, one, I understood that judgment, but also, like, you're right. Why would you take a position helping people when there's so much judgment and so much negative judgment and presumptions made? And
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yes, like you said, that's why we talking about it.
That's right.
And opening some minds. And okay, so we're gonna wrap. See, Mark pointed out, instead of saying relapse, which is not, I don't even say that. It's kind of been out of my vocabulary. It's reuse.
I know you do, yeah. I've heard you say, yeah.
That was at Hope Your Recovery training.
Oh, okay.
It was really wonderful. And William White, if you ever look him up, is basically, we call him, it's an endearing name, but he's the godfather of the recovery world. Like, he is the advocate. He made things happen. And he basically started way back when changing everything. And I just, we don't have enough time, but maybe I'll talk about it next week. So I was so lucky, and I got to sit in on a virtual Q&A session. We weren't supposed to ask questions, but with William White. So people were asking him questions, and I mean, he's like there. It was mind blowing. And I did Well, they said you could ask questions if there was time at the end. And it was only like a half hour, so I'm like, I'm not going to get no time. But the group that was doing the Q, I don't know if they were nervous or anxious. Nobody asked questions. So I put my little virtual hand out because like, they don't have to call on me. But they did. So I got to ask them a question, but we'll talk about that next week. I got to talk to the godmother.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool. Okay. Well, that's a wrap. Christina, how was it?
We did it.
We did it. You said
That's right.
You're tired. I'm tired.
I am. And my contacts are like drying to my eye.
School tomorrow. Ugh. Gotta do that coffee thing. That's another addiction.
Yeah,
right there.
that is.
It is. Oh man, I found a video by accident all about coffee.
I know.
Like, don't touch my coffee.
That's in the DSM too.
Yes. All right, listeners. Well, thank you for being able to for listening and participating. The ones that were able to. And we will check in with you next week. Everybody have a good night. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And we'll sign off and broadcast. And broadcast.